This is a photograph of a Chinese bridge that one of my family members took on a trip, and I have it printed out. It was in my reference file of printed pictures, so I'm going to paint it the same size that the photograph is, which is a little bit bigger than my normal pictures. And I really like the shape of the bridge, I like the colors, and I like the opportunity to be really inky in the water and the background. So as I'm approaching it, I'm having to kind of think about how do I want to maintain the shape of the upper part of the decoration of the bridge and some of these highlights while still allowing a lot of inkiness to flow through. What I'll do is a double masking method, and this may seem like it takes more time, but I think it might take less time really. I'd like to just mask the very small decorative pieces and then these highlights, and then let that dry, and then pounce on some Coolperry and some tans for the bridge, and some probably Coolperry or Cloudy Blue for the sky, and let that dry and mask that, and then go ahead with a full ink layer. I want to have the most freedom to have the fluid ink, so I don't really want to be bothered by worrying about protecting something. So we'll start with several layers of masking. First, I'm going to lighten the drawing. This is alcohol in the cotton swab. Next, I'm going to mask the upper part of the bridge here and these columns. I don't really want to lose them. I'm also going to mask this rim of the kind of a decorative inset in the stone. And it's definitely not white, but it's important for the shape of the bridge, so I'm going to mask it anyway. And I'll do the same for this arch. Again, definitely not white, but important. And then we have a really nice highlight. This is one of the key features of this painting. And I'll let this dry. Now that this layer of masking is dry, I'm going to pounce in the bridge. And I've got some makeup sponges. They'll give a nice little texture to them that'll, if I can break them, that will look kind of like stone. We'll be working on quite a bit more. The colors I'm going to start with are Pebble, Slate, and Coolperry. And I'm going to put them in the weld palette and just kind of pounce them on. So this is the Coolperry. Next I have the Slate. I picked a clean one here for the Pebble. So this will be definitely on the greener side. I'll try a little bit more with the Slate. And this is going to be just straight alcohol. I'm just going to break up a little bit of it. So this is Cloudy Blue with a little alcohol. And I'll let this dry for a second or a minute, and then I'm going to mask over it. For this layer of masking, I'm using a pretty big brush, and I'm just going to mask over the whole bridge. Now, I'm not masking all the way up into this shadow area, and that's because I want the background color to come through. But I will mask a little bit of this reflection, and then some of this lighter area where the rocks are. And I'll let this dry. So our masking is dry and I'm ready to start the background inking. And I would like this to be a very inky piece. So I've selected some colors. This is Espresso, Pebble, Eggplant, Meadow, Citrus, and I've selected Bottle. I just have to find it. And Bottle. My plan is to start inking from the top down, and then when I get to this part, turn the paper this way and ink in a other direction, horizontal direction, so that the water is flowing across. So I'll start just adding some ink. And we do want to make sure it's all covered, so I think I'll just use the brush handle here. And I'm going to let it dry vertically in this direction. So this is the dried background, and I'm going to remove the masking fluid. So this is the picture with the masking fluid removed, and I'm a little bit disappointed. It got a little chalky, so as I started to pull the masking fluid off, we lost a bit of ink in the background. So it's not as richly inky as I had hoped. But all is not lost. We've got lots of neat colors up here, and this isn't a bad facsimile for this, so we'll just add more ink into it. I'd like to begin by texturing, and I'll start texturing the upper trees. First, I'll remember that I did some masking up here. I should pull that masking fluid off. I'm going to start with a cotton ball and some alcohol. This is a makeup sponge, and it's clean, which is a major feature of it. I'll use that to bring back some of our sky. I just want this to be kind of nondescript, foresty background. I'm going to look at some of these darker parts. I've set up some eggplant over here to thicken, and I'm going to use that to shade in some of the darker shadows. And this also allows us to define this edge of the bridge. And there's an architectural feature here. We've got a tree back through here. I think I might have masked this. Maybe I should check that out. Also going to use the eggplant for some of the darker parts of the water. So, did you think I was just going to leave it like that? I am not. This is more of the sponge, and I'm just going to add a texture through it. This will lighten it, so we may have to add more ink through it. Well, I'll look for some felt, but I didn't find any, so we'll go back to this. this is mushroom. And I'm going to put it on with the sponge. Or better yet, with the bottle. I'm kind of lightening it and adding some more texture to it as it's drying here. We still really do have that shadow up here. Now I need this richness right here. So I'm going to just plop it in. I think you remember the drop-in guide technique. So we're going to try it. Pull off a little bit of it. I'm going to just, even though in the picture clearly this light area does not go, it takes a jog when it comes over to this side, I think that visually it'll just look better if it's a little bit more continuous. So we'll just kind of bring that over a little bit. And I'm going to lift this area that has the sky. I'm going to continue with this shadow. I'm putting the mushroom into the eggplant. Since we've got the whole mushroom thing going down here, I think that that's a good color to use. And now we'll start in on the bridge. And it's quite gray, so I'm going to start with slate, which I malign a lot of the time, but we're going to try it. And I'm applying it with the makeup sponge. All right, this is definitely the slate. Well, we're in a position where I just don't like any of the grays I have, and I know I've got perfectly good markers that are in those color ranges. So I'm going to use it. I hate doing this much marker on something, but we're gonna do it. This is darker than I need, but I will lift it. Panel that's a lot lighter. So I'm going to just start it lower than that panel. This is a lighter gray. And it's kind of in everything that's not this upper white area. So now that the initial layer's on, I will go ahead and go back to this makeup sponge with the slate gray and add some texture in. I'm going to just come over this reflection a little bit. Use the lightest of the gray markers I have to just kind of fill in these I wish I knew the name of them. And now we'll do some lifting with the pointy swab and try to make these look a little bit better. I'm going to come and add this line down in here. There's some areas where you can see the forest through the fence. For this part of the stonework, I'm going to use a different, this is a more brownish gray, and just kind of sketch in some stones. And I'll use the same marker on the stone that's lower in. I'll use this lighter gray marker to kind of texture this set of stones. Use it as well for the stones in this arch. Got some rocks back here that need some attention. But we do need this. This light is quite important. Just spilled alcohol over this side here. This is a cotton ball. And that's kind of disappointing because I kind of like that part of the painting. And back in that part of the bridge. And I think this was the mushroom. So we'll just... Well, it's still a little damp. I'm going to continue this water across. So before I work on finishing it, I would like to do a little splattering. I'm a little shy now that we just had this one alcohol spill, but I'm pretty sure I can manage it. So I've got a little putting back together to do. And in the water here, I'm actually going to use some of the green that's up in the trees. This is the makeup sponge and some alcohol. Dangerously, but I want just a little bit of splatter back on it, but not as much as I had. At this stage, I'm going to do a little cleanup with the black pen and the white pen. And this is just a little bit of lifting with the cotton swab and alcohol. And for all the details on the top of the bridge, I'm going to use the white pen. I've taken a photograph and I'm now going to splatter some yellow on it. This is with the toothbrush. And this is some pinata brass. So it's in with the yellow, so it should be doubly yellow. One thing I'd like to do, I just know that I'm going to want to do it, is to soften this edge. And I'll let that dry.